Hello everybody, John here. In this video, I'm going to talk about how my former Section 8 property manager tried to abscond with $1,650. Long story short, my former property manager tried to falsely charge me $1,650 in early termination fees when I wanted to move the property management of my Section 8 property to a new manager. Long story long, here we go. Back in 2005, I bought a condo here in Florida right before I left for Los Angeles to start my music career. I hired a property manager through a friend of a friend, and after I moved to Los Angeles, it became pretty obvious that the property manager was going out of business. They were beyond bad, so I chose a new property manager based on name and reputation alone. I didn't do any due diligence. I didn't interview this property manager. I didn't do anything, which obviously is a bad idea. I take full 100% responsibility. So fast forward from 2005 to 2018. Okay, my condo, it wasn't a very good investment, to be frank. I never bothered to sell it. It wasn't really losing money, but it wasn't really making any money. So in 2018, when interest rates got super low, I decided to start buying property to take advantage of these low interest rates and, try to get some income other than my music business income, diversify, if you will. So I contacted the property manager that I had for all these years since 2005, and they introduced me to a real estate agent, and we went and looked at some properties. I decided to pick up the duplex. Now, as we were negotiating the terms and price of this duplex, my very capable, very smart real estate agent somehow negotiated that a tenant was to be put into the duplex as both units were empty. The duplex was completely vacant. My real estate agent somehow negotiated that one of the units would be rented to a new tenant before I took over, so the property wouldn't be completely vacant. I'd at least have one unit's worth of rent coming in every month. Excellent idea. So it took about a week after my agent made this suggestion that the seller's real estate agent / property manager found and vetted a tenant for unit 2. So when I closed on the property, there was already a paying tenant that was vetted and everything like that, the background check, the credit check. Moved into unit 2, good to go. Unit 1 was still vacant. And it remained vacant for 6 months. Because I was going through the property manager that I had been using since I moved to Los Angeles. I went with them because they introduced me to my real estate agent, whom I bought the duplex with as my agent. So the property, unit 1, was vacant for 6 months, and we finally found a tenant. A few months later, unit 2, the tenant decided not to renew their lease and decided to move out. It was at this point where I had to come to Florida and see things for myself. This was a long time coming. The bad news is I didn't do it sooner. The good news is I eventually did it. So this was in the spring, early summer of 2019. I decided to come to Florida, vibe with the property, get to know it. It was the property featured in my previous video. I'll link to that in the description. I also wanted to see if I was going to make a change at property management. To get a new property manager, one that knew the neighborhood better, one that actually knew the pulse, so to speak, of the Section 8 community and all that stuff. I got to the property, and I met a new property manager through a colleague in the real estate business here in Florida, and this new property manager was proactive in wanting to see my property, calling, texting. It was very obvious that this new property manager was interested in the property, that she had people that she could rent it to. She seemed and is, she has the finger on the pulse of that community, of the neighborhood, if you will, if that makes sense. So I went to the duplex. I didn't tell my original property manager. I went to the duplex. I spent a few days there to get to know the unit. I met with the new property manager, and I said, okay, I'm gonna email my present property manager and let them know that I'm terminating my agreement with them. Okay, there was a tenant in unit 1, so I might have to pay some sort of fee, but there's no tenant in unit 2. I've been living here for a week. There's no tenant. Everything's good. So I email my property manager and I said, hello, I want to terminate my agreement. So then they emailed me back and told me there was a $1,650 early termination fee for unit 2, the unit that I was living in. So I got them on the phone and I said, why is there a $1,650 early termination fee? And they said, well, we have that unit leased out. We just got a lease with a new tenant. Huh, okay. Well, I wasn't notified that there was a new tenant. I wasn't notified of a new lease. We hadn't even agreed on a price to set the rent at. Yeah, we have it leased. They said, yeah, we have it leased. I go, okay. Well, I've been in the property for a while and I haven't seen inspectors come. I haven't seen anybody. I changed the locks the first night I got there. He said, oh, you have? Well, how long have you been there? And I said, well, I don't want to tell you that, because if I said I was there 6 days, they say, oh, well, 7 days ago we signed the lease. Or if I've been there 10 days, 11 days ago the lease was signed. No, okay? So I said, okay, well, I don't believe this is happening. I don't believe what you're saying. But if you send me a lease, then there's a lease. No, we can't send you the lease. Why not? We can't send it to you. I said, well, what's your attorney's information? We're not going to give it to you. So I thought, this doesn't sound on the up and up. I think something's wrong. Duh, right? So I got off the phone with them. Oh, email. Maybe that's them. I got off the phone and I called a couple of people in the real estate business and I explained what happened, and both of them were very, very enthusiastically said that a lease probably does not exist. Okay, yeah, right. That sounds pretty reasonable, right? So I emailed the property manager and I said, I'm formally asking for a copy of this lease, because I did it over the phone, right? So they could always say that I never asked for it because it was a phone call. So I put it in writing. I emailed, I would like a copy of the lease. Then I text messaged the head of the whole company, and I said, hey, I have a problem. Can you please call me back? And he writes back, oh, talk to so-and-so. That was the person that was lying about the lease. So I said, well, I think so-and-so is lying about the lease. And of course he goes, oh, well, talk to this other person. Meanwhile, the head guy is on Yelp saying how good their company is and rebutting everyone's 1-star Yelp reviews. But when it comes time to actually do something, the buck gets passed. And you could pass your own buck, but you don't pass my bucks, especially 1,650 of my bucks. So I got someone else on the phone from the company just before the end of the day. And this person was helpful, level-headed, and I hope I run into him again in my real estate investing career. He was cool, calm, collected, and he basically said he's checking into it. He hears what I'm saying. He's checking into it. And I felt like he knew what he was doing and he had everything under control the best as possible. I even told him that on the phone. I said, cool, just I'll wait to hear back from you. So meanwhile, I'm keeping my new property manager in the loop, and hopefully she didn't think I was too much of a weirdo knucklehead because I just started working with her, and then like 10 minutes later there's all this brouhaha going on, right? So later on that night, I got email back saying that there was no lease signed for the property. there was an application fee and some other ancillary fees, but in the original email when they charged me the $1,650, they said that a lease had been signed. Okay, so there was no lease. I don't owe the $1,650, right? So what did I learn from this? Trust, but verify. This is my first real world interaction in the real estate business of trust, but verify. In the music business, it happens all the time. Cool. But in the real estate business, this was the first time it's ever happened to me. What else I learned? Name and reputation, that doesn't mean anything. You gotta go by the numbers. My new property manager got rented for a great amount more than what my original manager had unit 1 rented for. What I think happened with my property manager, my original one, was that they saw that I terminated my agreement. Obviously that's disappointing to them, you know, like, okay, but that I gotta do what I gotta do to further my career, right? I even emailed them a few months ago asking them if they had a plan for unit 2. Once the tenant said they were moving out, I said, what's the plan for unit 2? And they never wrote me back. If they would have wrote back and had any kind of plan, it would have been a different story, but they didn't write back. And even on the phone, when I was talking to them, they said they got my email, but they just basically said, what type of plan are you looking for? We're gonna use the same plan we've always been using. That's what they said. They didn't write back because there is no plan. Okay, so there was no, they confirmed they got my email, but didn't write me back, consciously didn't write me back. So what more do you need to know about them, right? So what I think happened is they saw me terminate my agreement and they were disappointed, and they said, well, we have this new tenant coming in, and they thought they would tell me that I would owe the $1,650, and I was, oh no, go ahead, oh, you have a tenant, great. Yeah, move him in, I won't terminate, but we really need to keep on our toes about this stuff, right? That they call it like, they'd have a tough phone call with me for a minute and then it would all be great and it would keep my business, but that's not the case. You know, I was adamant. I was like, look, I did my research, I was in the property for a week, I met with a new property manager that knows the neighborhood, knows the area, knows what the rents are doing, and I just wanted a change. And it wasn't even that big of a deal, me changing. I would have still worked with the original property manager on other types of real estate until, you know, a rogue agent, so to speak, I guess literally, right? A rogue agent from the company tried to say that I owed this money, which I flat out didn't owe. Also, if they would have said, oh, you know, oh, we're disappointed, we found someone, they haven't signed a lease yet, but they put a deposit down, or whatever that money was, you know, the application fee, then it would have been a different conversation. And I was, okay, well, you know, here's a month's rent, or here's half a month's rent for your troubles, right? Even though no one discussed with me what the rent was gonna be, hey, that rent. Be smart out there, trust, but verify. I'm here in my new spot. It's gonna be it's a single, well, as you can see, it's a single family home that I just picked up a few weeks ago. We're in the middle of renovating it. So like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll keep the videos coming out. Have a good night, and again, this is John signing off. See you next time.